Hey Bobber Nation, it's Jimbobbington again. We recently just installed this new headlight that has the integrated turn signals, but we just installed it real quick, got the DRLs running like a normal halo, and said that's good enough for now. But I did want to follow up and attempt to get the integrated turn signals working. So I've been doing a lot of research, talking to some other folks from a Facebook group, and really trying to understand how this system works, how I need to get it working with a system in this headlight that has a shared ground. So as many of you may know or may not, we have a kind of different system that does a switched ground to the signals. So instead of flashing power, it's flashing ground, and that's a little different than your average setup, and so a lot of basic aftermarket things don't work right out of the box like that. So what I did, I went with some custom dynamics polarity converters. So what that does, let me show them to you. So it's just these two little things that you get a pair of them for like 15 bucks. It was like 20 bucks shipped. They showed up super fast. So what you do is you hook up the switching ground from the turn signals. You hook up a power, like a constant power, and then that converts the switching ground to a switching power. And the power is what goes into the turn signals that are integrated inside the headlight. At least this is how I understand it works in theory. None of this is tested or proven yet, but this is the plan. So you got to kind of splice these things in to the bike, and that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. I'm not an electronics guru or anything like that, but here's my plan. So if you see the turn signal, the wire is pretty short, connects directly to a harness on both sides. So my plan is to remove these turn signals, and I'm going to splice into the wiring on the turn signal side so that I'm not jacking up the wiring inside the bike. That's going to be a lot more difficult to replace down the road if something goes wrong. I'm also going to pull the headlight off again and tap into the low beam signal that is on the wiring on the headlight side. Again, same reason, because I don't want to be splicing any wiring that's part of the bike, and it's going to be a lot more easily reversible that way. So to remove the turn signals, you just got this one bolt and nut. Get that completely off, pull the signal off, pop the harness off. So I'm going to be able to take these inside, work with them, splice them a lot cleaner, and solder them together. What I did with these custom dynamics polarity converters was I went ahead and connected some spade connectors on the ends so that I can easily splice a wire into this with the opposite spade connector and have really easy way to quick disconnect and things like that. So that's the plan. I'm going to get these off, we'll take it inside, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm back. So like I said, yellow on these custom dynamics polarity converters needs to go to a constant power source, which I decided I was going to pull from the low beam since that is always on, and I didn't want to splice up the wiring on the bike. So basically I unsheathed a bit of this. Perfectly coincidental, the yellow wire on here goes to the low beam. That is this top prong. So I unsheathed some of that, connected a pigtail, one pigtail to the yellow wire, soldered that up. I'm not going to go over my soldering technique. I'm not going to tell you this is the right way to do it. I'm going to tell you this is the way I'm trying to do it, and we'll see if this works. So then it splits off, sends power to both sides. The red wire is what ultimately comes back to the turn signal switch. So I marked these. This one's the left one, goes to blue. The right one goes to green, and then these black ones will plug into the turn signals. So you take the turn signal off. Ultimately, if you pull these back, there is a blue wire and a brownish black wire. Based on the opposite side of the plug, the wiring in the bike, both sides, the brownish black wire is our switching ground that we want to connect to the polarity converters. So again, I spliced in a wire. This is a stretchy sheath, so I pulled that back, spliced it in, electrical taped it real good, and then this loom slides right back over it, and you can't really tell. So these are going to plug into the black leads once I get this all reconnected. So I'm going to go throw this all back on the bike. We'll see if it works or if I'm an idiot. All right, guys, so here is the moment of truth. Have everything all plugged in safely. Nothing's touching everything. We are going to turn on the ignition. Okay, so we got DRLs. Let me clean this lens. We got DRLs and low beam. We're going to hit a blinker. Oh yeah, and it operates at the exact same pulse. Other blinker. All right. So that looks like a success. Let's go to hazards just to, how the fuck do you use hazards? Push? I don't know how hazards work on this thing. Push and hold it? So hazards are a little funky because it doesn't know what to do. But I think that's okay. So that was the end of the video. I had it published. It was ready to go public in a couple weeks. And I was out here fiddling with the bike and I realized it's kind of janky. Let me show you what I mean. So the headlight looks great. It's been a little rainy around here lately, so I got some water spots. All right, so the headlight was working great, right? I had the low beams on. I had the turn signals working. Some people think that the fact that this opposite side turns off is not good. I feel like it's kind of normal, maybe. But that's not what we're talking about today. So those worked fine. But what happened was I was out here fiddling around with the bike, and I turned the high beams on. So high beams on, when you activate the turn signals, it gets weird. So the DRLs don't turn off at all, and the opposite side stock blinker actually starts flashing. So I thought that was really weird. I've never ridden at night. I don't really plan to often. When I do, I probably wouldn't even be using the brights anyway. But I couldn't leave well enough alone and put out a video where everybody thought that this light was cool and I did a great job installing it. I couldn't sleep at night. So talked with some more folks. And what we think might be a solution is, so I wired the power signal for both turn signals from the low beam. So what I'm thinking is take it all apart again, disconnect that from the low beam completely, and just use the power signals that naturally come to the stock blinkers instead. There may be some sort of cross-contamination inside of the cheap headlight where the electricity is bleeding into places it shouldn't be because the low beam power is higher amperage, wattage, I don't know. Electric's very good. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull it all apart, rewire, and I'll come back and show you. Rewire the power signal to both turn signals into the stock blinkers, just like I did with the switching ground. And we'll see if that clears anything up. If not, I've got another headlight on the way. We'll try something different. Okay, so finally decided to pull it apart once again. And what I've done is, so previously I just had this black lead, which is connected to the switching ground on the signals. And I was sourcing the power for the integrated turn signals from the low beam inside the headlight. That wasn't working out so well, so what I did was wired in a power source to the power lead in the turn signals, and we're going to try that out. Okay, everything is rewired and connected. Not completely permanently, but we're just testing. So there's accessory. We got our running lights like normal. Regular low beams. Left signal, right signal. Let's see if hazards work this time. Nope, they're still weird. Now let's go to the high beams. Okay. So now the signals are working correctly with the high beams. Before we were getting a faint signal off the opposite side and the blinkers weren't working correctly. So to me, it all appears like it's working as intended now. So that's good. Now I would consider it a success. Now I've also got another light that is going to be delivered today. Just to give me a second option to test out while I've got this all apart and wired up. But if you can, let's see if you can see this. So inside the housing here, you can see that the white plastic of this running lamp is rubbing and causing some sort of residue on the inside of the glass. So, I mean, the build quality of this headlight is not ultimate. It's not the best, but it looks good. Nobody's gonna notice that. I don't know. When the other headlight gets here, we'll throw that on to compare, and we'll see what you guys like the look of better. Okay, now here is the new headlight. This is the Doxmall 5.75 inch something. I'll put a link down below. So this one is also integrated signals. It had the correct wiring, so it actually had the male spades, and I had to make some new pigtails to connect it all together since the other one was kind of backwards. But here we go. So that is the regular beam. There is the DRLs in the accessory mode. Let's do some turn signals. This one, the hazards actually work. And let's throw on the brights. This one seems to be quite a bit more functional. And the light is also bright as hell. I looked into it and couldn't see properly for a few minutes. But there we go, I guess. Two options. I'm not sure which one I will stick with. I kind of like the look of both, but it bothers me a little bit that other one doesn't function quite as well as I would hope. So there it is, guys. Wiring an integrated signal headlight is not that difficult, just requires a couple polarity converters and some patience. So once again, I appreciate you for watching. This is a new camera, so there it is, a new phone. As always, this is Jimbobbington reminding you, don't be a skid mark. We'll see you next time.